welcome to the NDIS Property Australia podcast. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
With the NDIS second quarterly report for 22 coming out, it's time for us to take a close look at how things are changing in the SDA market. So we'll see how these new statistics on specialist disability accommodation will impact upon our view as to where the market's going and what's coming out. With the dwelling enrolments, the number of new SDA dwellings enrolled nationally in the December quarter for 21 had increased by 195. Of the 195 dwellings, 93 were from Queensland, 52 were from Victoria, and only 17 enrolled in New South Wales. The supply pipeline shows that there are more homes entering the pipeline of construction with an increase of 418 for the quarter. And this is the largest quarterly jump in supply yet. For Queensland, there was 187 dwellings joining the pipeline, 106 in New South Wales, 103 in Victoria. And across all the jurisdictions, the supply pipeline is dominated by dwellings built to the HPS standard. So most notably in the ACT, there was 91% as HPS, 77% in South Australia, 75% in Queensland, and nationwide, 70% of the 1,505 dwellings that are in the supply pipeline coming out are going to be built to the HPS category. So this data really shows us a very strong likelihood of an impending oversupply of HPS around Australia. It's not surprising because, you know, the SDA market has seen a decrease in profitability due to the higher rates of prices for land and construction costs. Construction costs mainly to be blamed because of COVID and also the construction industry's reaction to the home builder grant by the government. So because of these higher costs of acquisition, most developers and builders and investors are seeking the highest amount of return as possible to absorb that increase in cost to maintain a stronger yield for the investment. Okay, so a lot of apartments are being built, have been built and been planned, for HPS in the last 2 years or so. So in regards to participant data and demand, it's pleasing to see that there's been a jump in the number of people who have been activated for SDA funding this past quarter. There's an increase of 625 as being significantly higher, I guess, from recent quarters. But it doesn't represent all the participants who obtained SDA funding. So this is only regarding those who activated the SDA funding as part of their overall package in SIL funding. The overall increase in the SDA funded participants has increased by around 6,000 in the past 6 years, with the annual spend for SDA funding going from 112 to 231 million. If you've read the information online and various articles, the NDIS market is composed of $30 billion a year. And of that, 750 million is allocated towards SDA accommodation funding costs. So of that 750 million planned every year, 230 million is where the number is at the moment with regards to expenditure of that allocation. So there's still a long way of hitting the promised 700 million annual spend by the NDIA. The number of SDA funded participants seeking a suitable dwelling during the December 21 period was about 4,267, which is a rise of about 410 over the previous quarter. And of the SDA funded participants currently seeking a home, only 28%, so under a third of the HPS, under a third, 28%, are seeking HPS as a dwelling. So when you compare this to the 70% of dwellings currently under construction as HPS, there's a bit of a gap there as well. Of the remaining participants looking for a new home, 32% are funded for improvability, 20% are fully accessible, and 6% are for robust. So that's a basic summary of the NDIS's quarterly report, 21-22 quarter release. And to give you a more of a clearer picture, I mean, if you go to our website, you'll see on our main page there, I think, or in the statistics research section, a breakdown of the SDA pipeline data as of December 21. And there are 2,162 being built as we speak that are in the pipeline construction. Of the 2,162, 1,500 is going to be HPS. The numbers are 410 HPSs in New South Wales, 550 HPSs in Queensland, 325 HPSs in Victoria, 98 in Western Australia, 79 in South Australia, 11 in Northern Territory, Tasmania is 0. So when doing your research for investing in SDA, you've got to really look at the data of the demand of participants, the data of the pipeline of construction being built. And it's often hard for investors to see that data because the only way to get it is from the NDIA. The biggest opportunity for investors really is the improvability and the robust category. They're the two design homes which are most in demand for participants, because at the moment all the investors and the developers and builders are chasing after the highest yield possible, which is the HPS standard. So that is pretty much the black and white numbers of the SDA statistics. As of October 21, there were 1,800 participants looking for an alternative SDA dwelling, and this number will obviously increase with the flight to quality, which basically means participants and their families who are living in subpar legacy homes or group homes, which are from the past era, prior to the NDIS, they would be slowly looking at moving to a better quality dwelling for their own personal needs as disabled people. Still providers who will want a better design finish for these houses and apartments, for their workers to work in, to looking after the participants. And as an investor, you need to understand the target market more and build towards it. It's highly recommended that investors should focus on the participants' needs and the operators' needs, operators being the providers who are working on site, because the SDA market is maturing, even though it's still in its infancy at the moment. To future-proof your investment, you should look at other ways to improve the quality and the finish of the dwelling. For the purpose of this conversation, let's call it a house. Things to make it more future-proof would be looking at fire sprinklers, having possibly a hydrotherapy pool in the backyard, sensory gardens in the backyard as well, automation throughout the whole house, automated doors, windows and blinds and air cons, activated from voice recognition or from your phones. Fox dryer in the garage, whereby people can dry their clothes on a device that comes up and down while sitting in a wheelchair as well. Just more more personal space in the outdoor patio area outside each bedroom, possibly, if there's room to build that. So there are all these little things that you can do to a design of a house to make it much more livable and suitable to participants' needs. As I mentioned earlier, legacy homes, which are usually group homes, they are funded from a state level, and in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see more participants move out of those environments into more suitable SIL homes or SDA homes. At the moment, in Victoria, for example, there are, I think, over 120,000 participants, roughly, and 5,000 of those people already have SDA in their plans. So there literally is 5,200 potential SDA participants, tenants. And 4.5% is the concentration of SDA in the total market for Victoria, which is the highest in Australia. So from a location point of view, we believe Victoria is the strongest market to be in for investment purposes for SDA property investment. You can also look into areas as well to understand more of the information about a particular area. And I'll use an example of Toowoomba in Queensland, which we know very well of. So an example of this is where in Australia in 2021 June, the average funding for a participant in the NDIS is about $69,000 per year. And that's across 466,000 people who are in the NDIS. In Toowoomba itself, in Queensland, which is 2 hours west of Brisbane, it has 130,000 population with 6,100 participants in the NDIS, all right, of which the average budget is 76,000 per year. So the budget number there is higher than the average nationally. So some examples of the disabilities in that area. So of these 6,000 people, these are just the top 5 or 6. Psychosocial disability is about 562 participants in the area there of Toowoomba, and their funding is about 94,000 a year. Participants with spinal cord injury, 74 people there, and they have a budget of 128,000 per year. Autism is 39,000 as an average budget, and there are 1,673 participants in Toowoomba. Cerebral palsy, there are 228 people there, and they have a budget of 134,000 a year, and that's the largest number of all the participants in Toowoomba. And then multiple sclerosis, MS, 118,000 per year average, and there's 106 participants there. And as people may know, MS is a degenerative disease, which sees a lot of these people ending up in wheelchairs later on in their lives. So this is an example breakdown of numbers in a region. So 6,000-ish people of the 130,000 population are in the NDIS. And on average, the NDIA forecasts an average of 6% as a SDA forecast per region. So 6% of 6,000 is 360 people should be the forecast for SDA. And at the moment, there are 210 people who are already SDA funded in Toowoomba. Okay? Of which as of May 21, 44 were living in an SDA dwelling, mostly apartments. And then another 50 or 60 were earmarked for houses being built. Okay? So this is data you get from attending Housing Hub events and webinars with the Summer Foundation, looking at the releases of information from the NDIS on their website as well. So working on third-party research, working with the data from the NDIS to see the breakdown of these disabilities and their populations, going to the demand map as well online, it gives you a very good understanding as to what is going on in that region. Okay, so that's our advice to you, to seek out advice from other professionals who do know the data. Talk to builders and developers and ask for their advice as well and their research. And if they don't have the research, then be wary, because you should really only go where the demand is, right? And talk to people who have transparency on the construction pipeline in that area as well. That's some friendly advice. So overall, I mean, that's really much what I want to cover today with regards to demand and statistics and research. There's been a lot of talk in our podcasts in Melbourne as well, the last 2 or 3 podcasts, and I wanted to cover some interesting numbers with regards to SDA concentration of participants. In inner East Melbourne, there's an 8.7% concentration figure of all participants in that region as 8.7% SDA funded. In the Western District, west of Melbourne, it's 7.5%. Northeast Melbourne is 6%. And the Bayside Peninsula is 5.1%. Okay. So I bring that up because it goes on, going back to our topics about Melbourne and robust. We're very focused on Melbourne at the moment, and we urge you to consider Melbourne if you can. But in saying so, there are plenty of other areas around Australia, like regional New South Wales. They're looking for new dwellings for SDA as well. So we welcome any discussions with yourselves, our audience, with our staff at any time. So that will be the scope of today's podcast. I welcome you all to call our office on 1300 254397 to talk to any one of our friendly staff to understand more about the information regarding statistics and research. Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure that you are subscribed and following us so that you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this episode with those that can benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.